Hey, creative people, welcome back to another episode of the Creative Legacy Art Podcast. My name is Amanda Downs, and I am your host. And today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Garrett DeVaughn, who is a musician. He tells us about his creative process and how he overcame obstacles in his life. This is a very special episode, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. All right, so we are back, and we have Mr. Garrett DeVaughn with us. He is a musician and a visual artist. And we just appreciate him coming on to share with us about his work.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So we'll just get right into it. Tell us about yourself and how you got started in your craft.
So I am 42. I started playing piano. I started learning piano at like 8, I think. So that's like, the beginning of my music life. um, the short of it is I learned piano for just a little while. I've remember very little of it, but eventually learned guitar, um, and just fell in love with it. Um, so part of it's funny because when I was learning piano, part of why I didn't stick with it is I didn't like the music I had to learn. My teacher was kind of old school in that way. She didn't allow choosing music. She was like, "No, you're gonna learn this," and I just hated the music. I was bored with it and just didn't enjoy it. So that's kind of what made me stop piano. And then my older sister started dating a guy when I was 14, and he played guitar and he would play at the house. And one thing led to another, and I ended up. My dad had this old toy guitar that he had never learned to play. It just sat in the corner all my life. My sister's boyfriend fixed it up to have something to piddle with at the house, and then somewhere in there I was like, hey man, how do you do this? And he taught me a few little things, and it just kind of took off from there. So since then, it's like I said, I'm 42. Started learning guitar at around 15, 14, and went, graduated high school, went to college. And since then, it's almost like I lived kind of dual lives. Like I did what you're supposed to do and got my degree and just kind of went through the motions. But what I really wanted to be doing was music. Um, but it was looked down on. I don't know if I'd say looked down on. People, anybody, they're like, "Oh, you play guitar? That's cool, man." But like, as soon as you turn that conversation to like, "Yeah, that's what I want to do," they're like, "Oh, well,
That's not
you can't do that. You got
Yeah.
to be really, really good to do that. You're not that good." So most of my life was that, working and doing what I was supposed to be doing, and then kind of on the backside trying to do something kind of halfway. Rarely did I fully commit, I think, as much as I am now for sure. Um, so that was kind of my life for about 30 till I got to be about 38. Uh, so it was about 5 years ago. I was working a job. By that time, I had been in the mental health field for like 15 years. I had gone and gotten a master's in social work because that's what you're supposed to do after a while, and moved through a few different jobs and burnt out every one of them. And my wife and I finally had like a come to Jesus conversation because I was at a current job that I'd been at for like 7 months maybe, and I was miserable. And she was just like, "Okay, man, let's just real talk. What are you doing?" And it's like, "Well, I just, I think I can climb. I could probably, do manager or something like that." She's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure you could. What are you doing? Like, do you want to, you really think that's what you want to do?" And so it really was like a good conversation of like, you know what, if I've really, money's no concern, there's no issue. If I can do anything, it's be an artist.
Right.
And then from then it was like, okay, how do we make that happen? And since then, that has been the climb.
Awesome. Awesome. I think it's really good. Not well, we don't want to understate like how hard it is to push past all those voices that you hear telling you that this is not practical. You're not good enough
Mhm.
to do this professionally. So how were you
Yeah,
able to just like was it mainly your wife's encouragement to just go for it?
it was a lot of that. I tell her all the time, like, if it weren't for her, I'm not totally sure what I'd be doing right now. I just I don't know where I'd be because I don't know that I would have had it in me to really push just yet. Um, so that gave me a lot, but once she kind of gave me that good hard push, as soon as I had like a show or two under my belt, it was just like, okay, all right, this is absolutely okay. This is doable. I just had to figure this out. And so then it's kind of become a little more now of like, because I mean, the way I look at my music and artistic career is it's very much in its adolescence. Like I was I'm only a few years into really making a legitimate push. So, it's still quite a climb to go to get where I'm trying to get. But, every year I look back and I'm like, man, I'm a better artist than I was a year ago. And I'm more in tune with what I'm doing and what I'm trying to be. So, that's motivation in itself. And just the feeling, when you create something new and it's yours and it comes from like your core. There's just not anything quite like it. Um, and then being able to like show that to people and get a response is just, it's just another level of kind of surreal, uh, a surreal feeling sometimes.
So tell us, how would you describe your art?
So it's kind of a dual thing. It's music and then it's visual. So when I perform, I paint this side of my face up. Um, It depends on my mood on what that looks like. I don't have like a particular design or anything just yet. But paint my face up, wear a tie and whatnot. I'm kind of pull from my dad in that way. He was always very well dressed. Is always very well dressed. He was kind of a stickler for it. So still wear a tie and shirt and whatnot. And then I play tenor ukulele, and I do a blend of like indie folk progressive metal
Okay.
on my ukulele. I just recently, in the past 6 months, got a drummer that plays with me. He actually plays an African drum, a djembe, during our sets, which I would have never thought to do. By the way, that is all him. His name is Brandon Garza, and I was asking him to come and do like a cajon, just like a simple thing, and he recommended that, and it's been a really cool thing since then. So, um, a lot of my show is storytelling and kind of rolling through songs, and that's just kind of how I connect right now. So it's uh, it's not normal, but I'm pretty happy that way. So
Well, that's good. I mean, what is normal anyway? You know
that
what
would be an argument as well.
I mean? So, what do you love most about your music or performing?
Um, the thing I love most is really when people connect with it. I've played a lot of shows, and here in Nashville, obviously, it's a lot of country. When I was first starting out, I was playing a lot of riders arounds, which were basically all country. And then you have me playing these weird rock prog folk songs on a ukulele and screaming and yelling and all that. And so it was a lot of weird stares, but also every show there was just usually somebody, at least one or two people every show, that afterwards would be just like, dude, that was the most awesome thing I've ever seen. Or like, that particular song, like that hit something real deep. And like there's something about that. I think being able to communicate in that way, in this kind of core instinctive way,
Mm.
that you can't really put in words sometimes. There's something about that that just is, it's hard to describe. It's a really good feeling. So I think part of it for me is I have cerebral palsy. I have like a mild cerebral palsy. So growing up with a disability, you're kind of always on the outside. And so being able to communicate how I feel and then have somebody reflect back that they understand it and they see me in that way, that's not something that was easy to find for me growing up. And even now, it can still be a little tricky to uh, to hone in with other people at times. So the connection you get performing and people responding to your art in that way is, it's a pretty amazing thing.
It's like art is a form of communication, and it's like when you're able to communicate how you feel, your heart.
Yeah, yeah, and it's it really is something I haven't really. It's only been recently in the last few years that I've kind of talked about art as like a communication form. I think in my head growing up and whatnot, I just hadn't processed it that way. It was more like, well, this is just really good and it's entertaining. It does something, but I hadn't thought about like, no, man, it's talking to me. Like this is somebody on the other side of the world that recorded something, and I'm hearing it months, sometimes decades after it was recorded. But it says something to me, and that's just communication. So it's a cool thing. It's really interesting to think about it in that way to me.
It is like, um, I love the thought of when people intentionally put in what they are trying to communicate. For example, like I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. My mom used to listen to them when growing up.
Nice.
And back then, of course, as a kid, I would just look at the app because she listened to the
Vinyl.
the vinyls. Yeah, so I would
Yeah.
look at the album covers because I thought they were just really amazing.
Yep.
And now that I'm older and I look back on that, I could see like how much intention they put into the actual album cover, the music and the tones and the it was
Hmm.
just amazing. Like I just feel like when you listen to them, you cannot be depressed. I think it's a
That's such
prescription
a
for
good way to
depression.
put it. Especially Earth, Wind, and Fire, man. Them and like Parliament, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't not move. Like you just can't do it. It's not possible.
Right, right. But yeah, so speaking of not moving, tell me about a time when you felt stuck either in or in both your career as an artist or just in life in general.
Um, I mean, they've kind of coincided. I feel like there's kind of been a few different points for each. So when I was in college, I started college and was like, I'm going to be a civil engineer. That's what I'm going to do. And I had done okay in math and whatnot in high school. But it's like, okay, I'll be a civil engineer and then I'll keep playing music here on the side or whatever, whatever. And then I got to, let's see, I made it to calculus 2 or 3, physics 2 and chemistry 2. In the same semester, I had those 3 and I failed all 3. I tried so hard to. I remember having conversations with my mom, and she's like, "Well, you need to get tutors, and you got to go do this." And I was like, "Mom, it's done, man. Like that. I've been doing that, and it is not registering. It's just not clicking." And so I was like, I had hit a point halfway through that semester where I think I would have had to like ace everything else in those classes just to pass. And so it was like, all right, let me go to a counselor and figure out what I want to do. And it ended up leaning towards social work, which did feel much better. So in that way, it kind of pulled me out of that bit of stagnation. Um, but then, it still didn't really light me up. I love the idea of helping people. It's not that. It wasn't art. It wasn't what I really wanted to be doing. Um, but grinding through that, and it was just a lot of. It feels like it took me about 3 to 4 decades to like learn how to shed kind of the expectations that other people put on you.
Yeah.
And if I'm really looking at it, I was that entire 4 decades or so was stagnant. Like I wasn't doing what I really wanted to be doing during any of that time. Not really.
Gotcha.
I was learning and I was still practicing and playing and writing, but I wasn't doing what I wanted to be doing. And I mean, it's kind of what we talked on earlier. Like, if I hadn't had support from my wife, I really don't know exactly how all this would have gone. I would love to be able to say that, like, well, I powered through and I just, picked myself up by my bootstraps. And one day I said, I'm just going to go be that artist that I'm meant to be.
Right.
Nah, nah, man. You got to have support. You just have to. Somewhere, somebody's got to give you some kind of support, some way or another. So anytime I've gotten stagnant, I feel like most of the time it's where I've kind of come across or stumbled into support from somebody that kind of was able to like push me along a little bit and kind of help me dig out of the hole. I mean, I've been through burnout a few times, and that's a god awful feeling. You know, when you physically hurt
Mm.
waking up on a work day, but on your day off you don't. Like that tells you something, man.
Right. Right.
That is that's a big red flag.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, feel like I'm kind of going a long way on your answer now, but like stagnation, it's just not a fun thing, and it's not easy to get out of, but it can feel very easy to get into it,
Mm.
and that's a frustrating feeling. Um, I think when I think about like being stagnant in my art, that's definitely happened a few times here and there, and that's to me that one feels a little more like just keep moving like that. And I guess both, even in life, it's like, man, the mantra that always comes to mind and just seems to always figure it out is like you just keep moving. Like even if it's like it even if you're waking up and you take one step and then the next day you stumble back three, just you take a step forward. You do something. And life seems to have a way to for things to work out one way or another, like it's not always what you want, it's not always what you think it'll be, but nothing stays the same either. So one way or another, whatever's happening, it is going to change. What that looks like, who knows? But like nothing's forever. And I think that thought was helpful to me. It can be a little depressing in some ways because then you're like, man, it doesn't mean it has to get better. It just means it's going to change. And that's true. Like, yeah, I can't guarantee anything's going to get better in a month or whatever the change is. I can't promise it's going to be great, but it will be different. And
Mhm.
I think one of the bigger lessons I've learned over the years is like there's always opportunity. Even in the harder times, there's opportunity somewhere. The trick is like keeping your mind open enough to see it and able to like process like, okay, this is something, even if it's a tiny, tiny thing, like this is something that I can move with, and it at least it helps me move in some direction. And I think that's the best way for me at least to get out of being like a stagnant state or a depression, things like that. But it's hard to find it, when you're in it, when you're like in the grind, hard to see that, really hard to see it.
So what I hear you say, like, I'm just thinking maybe if there was someone out there who is listening and they are going through a stagnation, it kind of sounds like, you're saying you're going to need support for one, from other people, and two is just keep moving and keep your mind open.
Yeah, I would say that. Thank you for bringing me back around to the point, by the way.
No, no, no. That this is the point. Like this is how we get there.
Um, yeah. I mean, I think that that's it. And I know I'm very fortunate that I have a support like my wife. You know, not everybody does, man, and I'm very aware of that. Um, so I think when I think about other people trying to find a support, if it's not their close people, it doesn't mean there's not an opportunity in there. It just means keeping your eyes open and finding a new outlet. You know, sometimes it means it sounds kind of brutal, so this may be a little harsh sounding or something, but sometimes it means moving on. Like, you know, if you're not getting support from those closest to you, then that's not a good thing. You know, that's not what you want. So, it may be a thing where you need to look outside of your circle. But there are people. There are ways to get help. There's ways to get support and to get resource to push through and keep moving.
I think that's really good advice, and it's very needed, because we all go through these times in our lives where we can feel stagnant, whether it's in just our regular everyday life, whether it be in our career, our relationships. So this advice can work for anything across that board.
I hope so.
And so, could you, going back to the music, could you tell me what is your favorite piece?
Um, so it's kind of, I guess, like my favorite pieces I have that you can actually go listen to right now. I have an EP that's streaming, and it's called Adam the Astronaut. So as a whole, that's probably my most proud piece because uh, you know, that was my first EP, and I learned so much from it. But I am very proud of the art itself. It's, fairly complex. The opening two tracks are one big story that take about 12 minutes to get through, and it's intricate in some places that I'm really proud of because I'm a bit of a nerd in that way when I'm writing music. If it sounds too normal and too easy to keep up with, I get bored. So I end up doing weird things in there. But I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say that I'm probably one of the more proud things is my live shows. There's a song it's on my EP called Inner Pinhead, and it is legit inspired by the movie Hellraiser.
Okay.
Uh, but there's a whole story I tell going into it. I don't want to, for anybody that hasn't seen me, I don't necessarily want to give everything away on it, but it's something that developed over a handful of live shows and just kind of sparked ideas here and there. But it's something that every single time me and my drummer do it, there's always people that like it gets people's attention and people seem to really enjoy it. So I'm always really proud of it. It's a fun thing when you're telling a story or you're doing something and I know all the references and all the little Easter egg things I have in it. And to see people every now and again, I'll look in the crowd and somebody's like, oh, I know what that is. And so like, that's just always a super cool thing. Cause then there's a lot of people that are just kind of looking at me like, all right.
Okay, so we are going to share something of yours. Would you introduce a piece that you would like for us to share?
So what I'll share with you is the title track to my first EP. It's 2 songs, but it'll be a little live clip from when I played at the Cobra in East Nashville back in November. And it's called Adam the Astronaut, Death of an Astronaut.
Okay, we'll listen to it now.
Hello, everybody. Garrett DeVaughn, my companion Critter, the drummer. I'm also known as the Mad Youth Bar, just in case anybody follows me. So this first song is the title track of my EP. It is Adam the Astronaut, Part 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So Adam the Astronaut was the first song that I heard that you.
Huh.
I love that song. Your voice is so amazing, so clear, and it's just really beautiful. It's really
Thank
beautiful.
you. I appreciate it. That one always gets a reaction. It's a weird song structurally and whatnot. So there's definitely a lot of people watching that are often like, okay, all right. But by the end of it, I feel like that every show there's always somebody that seems to just get a strong reaction from it. So I was pretty proud of it. So right now I am preparing to go back in the studio in July to record my second EP that will be called The Kitty Chronicles, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a set of songs that have been inspired by my current cat and a couple of other cats that I have befriended over the last decade or so. I'm pretty pumped about it. It's my second go on recording an album, and I learned a lot from the first one. So I'm pretty excited to put those new lessons into play. So I'll go in the studio in July. The plan is to start releasing music in October, putting together a tour of some sort right now. So I'm hoping, right now I think I have 2 shows booked right now. One is July 2nd. It's a house party in Nashville at the Gunk House, like Gunk. If you follow me or find me, and I'll post about all that stuff. So I'll be able to give you details on like how to figure out how to get there because it's kind of wonky. And then I have another show at Mirror Mirror in Nashville. That's August 14th. And hopefully plan is to have a lot of other shows pop up after August through fall. Fall is like my time of year. Obviously I wrote a movie based off Hellraisers, so clearly I love Halloween and I love I love fall and all that stuff. So that's my time. So I hope to have a lot of shows and whatnot.
Nice. So tell us, how can someone connect with you and
Cool.
listen to your music?
Yeah. So I have a website. It's GarrettDeVaughn.music.com. You can buy my vinyl there. I'm got a few different little items around. I have a Redbubble account for other merchandise, and it's on that page as well. So you can find some things there. I've got my shows updated there. I'm really active on Instagram. I'm somewhat active on Facebook, but Instagram's kind of my safe space.
And so on your Instagram, is that Garrett DeVaughn Music?
It is.
So thank you so much for coming through. We just really enjoyed talking to you, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors with Kitty Chronicles, and we look forward to seeing and hearing more from you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing other episodes and see what all you get done here, man. It's a cool idea what you're doing. Hopefully everything we talked about, I mean, I hope it's helpful for people to hear.
Yes, I think it will be. But thank you again, and you have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Creative Legacy Art Podcast. If you like this video or if you like this podcast, please subscribe, join, do all the things, and share, above all, share so that we can grow as a podcast and get the word out and help as many people as we possibly can. Have a great day, and remember to stay strong, stay positive, and keep creating.